Thank you guys for joining in. I mean, I have two CEOs in the building. My name is Ajibola Kamo. I'm an investment analyst for Nairametrics. I cover cryptocurrencies, equities, and commodities. So we're here to talk about the Trust Tokens acquisition of EthWorks. So let's get this on. Well, first thing is, Rafael, you're the CEO and co-founder of TrustToken. And, TrustToken, funny enough, I have this story. I bought TrustToken at 20 cents in January. And I was fortunate enough to make some money off that when I sold off at, I think, around 75 cents or thereabout before TrustToken hit that all-time high. And, I've made a pretty good deal of money from trading TrustToken. So, Rafael, if you can just
well done. Glad to hear
it. Yeah. So, Rafael, if you can, just tell us a little bit about TrustToken, because you guys have so many products. You have the TrustFi, you have the Cryptocurrencies. So, if you can tell us more about that, we would really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, our main product is TrueFi, which is the DeFi protocol for uncollateralized lending. And I'm sure because you're an investor in the TRU token, so I'm sure you're familiar with it. But
yes,
for your audience and readers to understand, it is you can think of it like Compound or Aave, but instead of taking collateral, it does actual credit scoring. And if you look at traditional finance, there is a certain amount of over collateralized lending in traditional finance, such as when you get a mortgage. You're putting up the house as collateral, and that's larger than the size of the loan. But the under collateralized and uncollateralized lending markets in traditional finance are way, way bigger, something like 20 to 200x larger, depending on exactly how you measure it. And in DeFi, this under and uncollateralized market was largely untapped. And so in November of last year, we launched TrueFi. It was the first protocol to be doing uncollateralized loans on the blockchain. In less than 12 months, it has now grown to over $1 billion in TVL. It's originated well over $500 million of loans so far with 0 defaults. And so this really goes to show that uncollateralized lending and genuine credit scores on the blockchain are really possible. They're live. They're happening right now in the TrueFi protocol. So that's overall what our company is about. We do also have a series of stablecoin products, including TrueUSD, TrueGBP, AUD, CAD, and HKD. A bunch of stablecoins from around the world. TrueUSD was actually the first regulated stablecoin ever. When we launched TrueUSD several years ago, Tether was the only competitor. And of course, Tether had a very concerning reputation at the time. And we see stablecoins as a key innovation to be able to unlock the power of finance on the blockchain. It's not that interesting to have DeFi protocols like Compound, Aave, TrueFi, Maker, etc. if you're only trading volatile cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and Bitcoin and so on. Stablecoins are really crucial for these sorts of protocols to be successful.
All right, thank you. Marek, EthWorks. So you guys have worked with Bitcoin.org, Polkadot. I've heard so many things, but a larger audience of mine do not really understand what EthWorks does. So I would like you to just describe the EthWorks, what EthWorks does, the kind of product you offer and services, basically.
Absolutely. So basically, we're a dev house, meaning that we're a company that, if you're building your product, if you're one of those DeFi startups or blockchain startups, you come to us, you need something to be done, whether it's, something in design space, whether it's, a protocol, smart contracts, the apps, or infrastructure stuff like layer 2, or we even done some work at the EVM level. And so we are the place to go to help you out with your project. And we've been lucky to work with some of the most interesting and most noble brands in the space, some of the most interesting projects, some of the most noble brands. You mentioned Bitcoin.org, which was designed by Satoshi Nakamoto himself, and we done pretty much the first redesign. We work with Ethereum Foundation directly on several occasions. We work directly with Polkadot Foundation, we work with companies like Dharma, Status, and most recently Diversify, which was the first layer 2 application ever, and many others. So that's pretty much what we've been doing. We've been 45 people at the moment of acquisition.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, so what I've gotten from what you said is you guys are basically like a smart contract shop, if I'm correct.
So I would say one-stop shop for a blockchain project. Not only smart contracts, but also design, also infrastructure stuff, right? So
okay. So this question is for both you and Rafael. So what does this merger, because I'll call it an integration, because now you're now the CTO at TrustToken. So it's not really like a quick on acquisition whereby EthWorks is independent from the business. So it's like you guys integrated yourselves, you know, Rafael still being the CEO, you now being the CTO from being the founder of EthWorks. So what do you guys hope to accomplish from this acquisition? Basically, that's the question. So I think maybe Rafael can go first.
Yeah, I'm happy to start with that. So as you said, this is a very deep merger. Marek has joined as our CTO. Krzysztof, one of Marek's partners at EthWorks, is our VP of engineering. And Natalia, one of the other founders of EthWorks and their head of design, has joined as our VP of design. So this is massively fleshing out the TrustToken engineering and design team and bringing on extremely strong leaders in both engineering and design, like we've never had before. And the thing that we hope to accomplish is take TrueFi from being a $1 billion DeFi protocol to being a $1 trillion DeFi protocol. And that's going to involve expanding massively within the crypto space. Those are big numbers, but honestly, those are small compared to the size of lending in global finance. And our core belief is that DeFi is going to power a significant fraction of all global finance in the future. Just like how before the internet, people might say, oh, like, you know, why would banks use the internet? Is the internet even secure? Can you send money over the internet and so on? And now, of course, every bank in the world is using the internet. You'd be crazy not to. And so just like how banking and finance moved onto Web 2, it had to. You would be left in the dust if you didn't adopt computers and internet, if you were a bank or another financial institution. Similarly, we believe a similar trend is happening and is going to continue happening over the next decade. And a very large fraction of all global finance is going to have to move on to DeFi in order to stay competitive. And we're right now the market leader when it comes to uncollateralized lending. And I think there's a ton of stuff to be built here: uncollateralized lending, over-collateralized lending, trading, all kinds of different applications. But we're focused on this uncollateralized and under-collateralized segment. We're right now the market leader in that. And our goal is to put as many resources as possible towards this problem to make sure that we stay the market leader in that segment, continue to expand our product, start lending within TradFi, open new pools, bring in more lenders, and grow TrueFi to become $100 billion, eventually even $1 trillion protocol powering a significant fraction of all global finance.
All right, thanks for that.
And you don't get there without a fantastic engineering team.
Yeah, of
so
course.
That's what we've now got.
Okay, so Marek, what do you have to add to this?
So thank you, Rafael, for the kind words. And yeah, we totally sign up to this vision, and we want to, we have a feeling we've been really doing good work when it comes to engineering and design, but it was always creating something for someone else. So now we're changing the game and, becoming the part of the same, of building one product, one vision. And that's what makes us super excited. And we totally agree that, blockchain is going to be the place where the money will flow in the future. It's going to be, well, I think it is already became an alternative financial system, but it will become eventually the financial system. So it's super exciting to be here early where things are just getting started. And it seems that TrueFi is indeed like the market leader in something that is very small, even it's already $1 billion, but something that might be many orders of magnitude bigger in upcoming years and decades to come.
All right, that's fantastic. Tayo, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, definitely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. Trust token, TrueFi, building uncollateralized lending. So I think I heard somewhere, I think on a similar podcast such as this, that Trust Token is trying to build a credit score for the blockchain space. Can you maybe expand a little bit more on this and when that product is going to launch?
Yes, absolutely. So credit scores on the blockchain are a crucial piece of being able to do uncollateralized and under-collateralized lending on the blockchain. And we already have that live in production. So all of the borrowers that borrow on TrueFi actually go through a credit scoring process now. They get a credit score. The credit scores are out of 255, 0 to 255. So it's just a single byte, very easy for any smart contract to consume and use in their protocol. And those credit scores are written directly to the blockchain and are used by the TrueFi protocol to determine credit limits and also rates. And someone like Alameda, for example, has one of the largest borrowers on the TrueFi protocol, very strong credit score. I think it's about 223. Our newer borrowers that just joined more recently, of course, are oftentimes starting with a much lower credit score. And as they build up that repayment history, they get a higher credit score over time, unlocking larger loans and better rates. And this creates a fantastic feedback loop because we have borrowers, including folks like Alameda, telling us that they want to borrow more and more from us because these are very legitimate firms. They're paying back all their loans. But if they borrow outside of DeFi, just from some centralized company, and then when they pay back that loan, how has it helped them, right? Okay, so they got some capital, they paid some interest, done. On the other hand, here in DeFi, they are creating a public and immutable record of that repayment history that goes into their credit score for TrueFi that we think is someday going to be used across all of DeFi. Anyone in the world can see that they have this history, that they have this credit score, and that can ultimately affect the sorts of rates and the sorts of capital that they're getting from all kinds of different DeFi protocols. So this is already live, it's already in production. There are hundreds of millions of dollars already being loaned based on these credit scores, so far with zero defaults. So credit scoring in DeFi is completely live and working today.
All right, so Rafael, this is for you. The question is this, what makes this different from the traditional credit card system that we have in operation? What makes TrueFi different from, me going to a bank in America right now and getting a credit card? So what's the benefit?
Great question. So first of all, this is DeFi. It has a level of transparency for lenders and for borrowers that goes so far beyond anything in traditional finance that it is almost unimaginable for people that are not familiar with crypto. Let me explain. I right now bank with Wells Fargo, okay? Big bank in the US, fantastic company. But here's the thing, just like any other big bank, right now I'm earning a fraction of 1% on my money. That's just the interest rate on the US dollar today. Now, it's not because Wells Fargo is loaning my money at a fraction of a percent. No, they're loaning at much more than that. But that money is just not going back to me. It's going back to the shareholders and the management of Wells Fargo. And not only am I getting a minuscule fraction of that interest, but also I have almost zero transparency. So if I put $1,000 with Wells Fargo, it goes in, I have absolutely no idea what loans they're making on the other side. I'm just trusting that because they've got a big name and these big buildings and so on, they're probably not going to steal my money. Now, compare that with DeFi. You're a lender, you put $1,000 into a protocol like TrueFi, you are going to get a very large fraction of all of the interest that the protocol is making. In Compound and Aave, it's oftentimes something like maybe 3 to 5%. With TrueFi, it's oftentimes more. You might get all in 8 to 10% on your stablecoin deposits. But the part of the beauty of these protocols, not only are you getting some large fraction with TrueFi, it's about 90% of all the interest goes directly back to the lenders who are putting in stablecoins, but also it's completely 100% transparent. So you put $1,000 in, you can see in real time, 24/7, every single penny that goes in or out of one of these protocols and exactly why it went in or out. And every time the protocol makes a loan, you can see the exact terms of that loan, the exact status of that loan. So imagine if regulators are trying to help protect consumers, right? Imagine if regulators said to Wells Fargo, "Hey, Wells Fargo, we want you to be transparent, so we're going to ask you to just publish in real time, 24/7, every single time a single penny moves in or out of Wells Fargo." Right? That would be crazy. That would be insane, in traditional finance, to have that level of transparency. But that is the norm. That is the absolute standard when it comes to DeFi. So that is the biggest thing that DeFi is providing is like a tremendous level of transparency and trust with lenders and borrowers, where everyone can see exactly what the system is doing with their money. That's the core advantage.
All right, thank you. So, I mean, one of the reasons why I even decided to buy the TrueFi token initially was because of the uncollateralized loan aspect of it, because it was so unique. And I thought, hey, this is actually a good project, and I want to, get in on this project. And thank God I made a bit of money from it. But, from what Rafael is saying, I think I'm going to dollar cost average into TrueFi again. So, yeah.
Good, glad to hear it.
So now I want to ask Marek, you've been working with TrustToken for over a year now before this acquisition. I want to ask, what was, the partnership with TrustToken before the acquisition?
Sure. So we were working like with many of our partners on the products. We've been helping, we've been part of the team that built the original first version of TrueFi. And even before that, we did some help with some updates on TrustCurrencies as well. And so that was mostly work related to smart contracts development and working together with their team on building those basic blocks.
Thank you for that. So I want to ask, how much? Okay, yeah, go ahead, Rob.
If I could just add to that, we've been able to work with EthWorks for quite a while now, and they are absolutely the best in the business. And that's not just me saying that. At this point, I've talked to all of the EthWorks customers as well, and that is consistently what people are saying, is that these guys just deliver at a level that no other dev shop performs at. And so for us, it was a very clear decision that it was worth merging, because excellent blockchain engineers and excellent technical leadership is one of the rarest things to be able to find in this space, and one of the biggest factors that can make or break the success of a project like ours. So for us, it was a very, very clear choice to be able to deploy capital in this way.
Rafael, I want to ask, EthWorks has this open source project, the Waffle and Use apps. Would you say that because of those projects, you would say that that was a major catalyst for you guys to look at acquiring EthWorks?
Yeah, I think that those definitely strengthened the desire to acquire EthWorks. Those projects they're used by developers around the world. They are part of how EthWorks has such a strong brand among developers. And it really is a credit to Marek that he's been able to both produce such strong open source projects and build and retain such a strong engineering team in this very competitive space. And we hope going forward to continue and to actually increase everything that EthWorks has been doing in terms of hackathons and organizing events for developers and building those open source projects, etc. All of those sort of contributions to the developer ecosystem, we want to be doubling down on.
All right, Marek, can you tell us a little bit about the Waffle open source project and the used apps? Just so that everybody can understand it, you know.
Absolutely. And thank you, Rafael, again for the kind words. I wanna say maybe two things here, right? First, why doing open source in the first place? It's that the blockchain space is still pretty young, and there is a lot of things missing. A lot of tooling, a lot of infrastructure is still not in place, and many things that one would expect or supposed to be easy to be done are not easy to be done. It's not easy to accomplish, and therefore, where we work on things, and when we were a dev shop, that happened a lot. Like, this team had to solve this problem, and this team has to solve this problem, and this team had to solve this problem, right? So you keep solving the same problem, and then you say, okay, can we just solve it once and for all so everybody can use it? And that's recurring topic that happened for many projects, including Waffle and UseUp, but we also created Mars and some other projects as well. And with Waffle, the problem was really testing smart contracts. Like, you don't want to have your smart contracts to have bugs, right? If you don't want to have them to have bugs, you need to test them. So it really matters how precisely, how easily you can test them. And that's Waffle. Waffle is a testing framework that allows you to test the shit out of smart contract. Like, every single scenario, it just, you know, very easy to do and very performant. Now, UseUp is an interest. Yeah,
go ahead.
No, with UseUp, it's a little bit different, because Waffle is very, you know, for those advanced developers writing smart contracts, right? UseUp is interesting because it's a front-end framework. So for anyone who wants to build, you know, a piece of UI, a DApp, maybe not on their own smart contract, but maybe on the top of what other people already built, right? So it's, you know, it's built on top of React. And again, we've seen those problems in many projects when it was difficult to really create usable, nice interfaces. And we find good patterns, and it literally took years to find those patterns, solve it, and so on. And then we put it all into UseUp. So now it's, you know, what would take weeks now takes days, or what would take days takes hours.
All right, nice. So, you know, I like that you mentioned, you know, being able to test the hell out of smart contracts, right? So I want to ask, what do you think of the current state of DeFi hacks? You know, we've been seeing a lot of news, especially, you know, on different blockchains. I don't want to mention any blockchain in particular, but so many hacks, so many exploits, so many money being lost to hackers. So what is, for instance, the first question is, what is Waffle going to do to mitigate that? That's the first question. And the second question is, how are you going to be able to prevent such an occurrence now that you're part of the TrueFi team?
So, starting with general hack landscape. So first of all, I think, you know, there is a lot of landscape. I think in August, there was a major hack every single week. So, and I think the sad reality is we're gonna see even more of those hacks, because, you know, the space is growing exponentially and new people are joining, and a lot of those hacks, we only hear about those big hacks. We don't even know about those smaller hacks, smaller amounts, you know, there's things that already happened before. It's not a novel, it's not a new way of hacking things, right? We don't even hear about it anymore, right? So I think because the space is growing and security is really hard, and you know, new people are joining all the time, we're gonna have more of those hacks. And I think we didn't heard about the biggest hacks that's gonna, you know, that didn't happen yet. The biggest hacks are still ahead of us, right? And there is no really easy. They're yet to come, and, you know, there's gonna be much bigger than what we've seen so far, because, you know, the space gonna grow, and, you know, the complexity gonna grow, and yeah. So there is no easy solution to that, and the answer is we need to push space to mature as fast as possible and build the best practices, and, you know, automate as many things, like just make sure that stupid things doesn't happen over and over again. things that can be prevented. And we really work hard on those less obvious new kind of things that, we don't know, unknowns, we call it, right? And, Waffle is just a small piece of a puzzle in the wider security, good practices space that we need to build, and we need to start using, and we need to start using more often as a Ethereum or blockchain community.
All right. So let me come back to the acquisition. So let me throw this question to Rafael. How much did you acquire EthWorks for? And for Marek, how much did you put in the pocket from the acquisition?
We decided not to disclose go ahead, Rafael.
Yeah, we're not currently disclosing the amount publicly.
All right, that's okay. So next question is, so the next question is for the TrueFi platform. So you guys give uncollateralized loans. You give them through the stablecoin through USD, and once they have the credit score, they can withdraw. Is it possible for them to withdraw the money? And that's the first question. And use it in real life, as in cash in that money that's borrowed and use it in real life for day-to-day transactions, for instance. That's the first question. And the second question is, what is the vetting process like on DeFi as opposed to traditional finance?
You said, what's the vetting process like?
Yes, what stands out in the vetting process that is different from traditional finance?
Good question. Okay, so to start with the first one, yes, borrowers can absolutely use that in real life. We right now have 3 pools: a TrueUSD pool, a USDC pool, and a Tether pool. And so, lenders can deposit any of those 3 coins. Borrowers can borrow from any of those pools. And, all of those, the borrowers can either sell or redeem them for US dollars or another actual fiat currency, and then use it for whatever they like. And they've been credit scored, and so the protocol feels pretty confident that that money is going to get repaid. Now, I would say these borrowers right now are institutional borrowers, so folks like Alameda Research, Wintermute, Amber AI, and so on, large trading firms and some exchanges as well, oftentimes with 9 figures or even 10 figures under management. And so, they're not using this money to go and buy groceries. They're using it for, oftentimes multi-million-dollar trades or arbitrages across exchanges. In the future, we do want to lend to a broader set of businesses, but I do think it's going to be a while before DeFi protocols like ours are able to lend to consumers, because the collections problem is really tough. Collections is much easier if you're dealing with, a pool that lends to a smaller number of large institutions. You're doing, $500,000, $1 million loans and up. It's much more difficult if you've got thousands of loans of $100 or $1,000 to individual consumers. Then when you have those inevitable defaults, it's a much more difficult process to go and collect from all of those individuals. So I think eventually protocols like ours will be able to lend to that market, but at least in the near and medium term, we expect to do that primarily through other businesses. So imagine lending $1 million to a company that is doing consumer lending, and they're handling the collection of thousands of much smaller loans. Does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does. So I want to ask your take on stablecoin regulation. So by my calculation, TrueFi is I think the 6th highest ranked stablecoin, USD stablecoin on according to CoinMarketCap. So I want to know what your own idea of the current state of crypto regulations around stablecoins. A lot of people have diverse opinions about this. Some people say that stablecoins should be regulated as a bank. Some would say otherwise. So what do you think, Rafael?
Wow, that's a tough question. What I can say is that our goal is just to be as compliant as possible with whatever the regulations are. We built the first US dollar compliant stablecoin in true USD. We do full KYC checks on all of the people purchasing and redeeming the stablecoin, as well as all the borrowers on the TrueFi platform. And across the board, our company is looking to stay as completely clear of regulation and the law as possible. Now, a lot of stuff in crypto is still unclear, and there are many places where we're waiting for clear regulatory guidance to come out. But if there ever is a place that's unclear, we aim to steer very well clear and to really do our best faith effort to comply with whatever regulations we do have that we know.
All right. So earlier you mentioned the total value locked. I think it was in August that TrueFi's total value locked hit $1 billion. And I think TrueFi launched in November 2020. So it wasn't even up to a year, and you guys were able to get that amount of money. What would you say was the major catalyst to that exponential growth within that short period of time? Because that's like a 34,000 or 35,000% return or increase in TLV from the beginning of the year.
Good question. So that increase, I think, is largely due to the fact that uncollateralized lending can get higher rates than over-collateralized lending. So if you look at protocols like Compound or Aave, people aren't willing to pay nearly as much to borrow $1 million of USDC if they have to put up $1.5 million of Ethereum. So over the long term, people are consistently willing to pay more for an under-collateralized loan. I mean, just to give you numbers, right now, the borrow APY on Compound for USDC is 5.69%, and Tether is 4.54, right? If you compare that to TrueFi, the rates that people are willing to pay on TrueFi are much higher, and that's because they simply don't have to put up collateral. Now, there could be increased risk, of course, if you don't take collateral. Now, we do a very strong credit scoring process. Compound and Aave do not, and so it's a different strategy for managing risk. But none of these protocols are without risk, and that higher APY ultimately allows the protocol to give a higher APY to lenders, and that means a lot of folks want to move money over from Compound or Aave or other investments into a protocol like TrueFi. And the average APR right now that TrueFi is lending at is actually 9%. So it's people are willing to pay almost 2x as much for an uncollateralized loan as for an over-collateralized loan. And so that is really our competitive edge and why so much money is coming to the protocol.
All right, so this question is for Marek. So is it now EthWorks? Are you fully geared into working for TrueFi, or do you guys still have your other projects that you've already had? Your partnerships with Bitcoin.Cloud, Ethereum, Polkadot. Do you guys still work with them, or are you just now focused on TrueFi?
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna eventually phase out, and that's probably gonna take a few months, maybe half a year, maybe even longer than that, because, and this is a huge thanks to Rafael, we don't want to turn back on our customers. We are, as we were for TrustToken, we are, our teams are often an important part of the efforts and businesses that build their own products and startups. So for us, it's important that we give them time to hire proper people, and we're going to help them train them people, get them people on speed, and make sure that transition for them is smooth. So, but once that's done, we're gonna probably fully focus on TrustToken, and that's something, well, we're looking forward to.
All right, so we're about to wrap this up. So I have some questions for you guys still. First is for both of you. I think Marek, since you're on, you go first. What are your top 5 cryptocurrencies?
Oh, good question.
I'm not sure if I'm legally allowed to say true, but
I mean, you can.
You can say true. You can say true.
Against it, true. Okay, I have to be very careful, if it's not, illegal advertising of securities. But I'm a very classic guy. So for me, it's Bitcoin. For me, it's Ethereum, and I personally think that Polkadot, we've been, I think, successfully convincing Rafael that Polkadot is going to be the third of big trio of cryptocurrencies. So I would stay with those three. Obviously, there's a lot of tokens and coins, but yeah, I'm a traditionalist focusing on big blockchain.
All right. So Rafael, what about you?
Raf, I think you're muted now.
Yeah.
I didn't know you can mute on the phone. Oh yeah, you're back.
Okay. Oh, hang on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Great. Okay, so of course, CRU is my number one. I think that uncollateralized lending has just the biggest growth opportunity ahead of it of anything in the DeFi space. Similar to Marek, I'm also a large holder in Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're just core parts of any diversified crypto portfolio. And then I've got a whole bunch of DeFi tokens in my portfolio, including Compound, Aave, SushiSwap, Uniswap, and Synthetics, and a little bit of Alpha as well. So those are the Rafael bags, if you want to know.
All right, thanks for that. So question to you both again. What are your end of year predictions for TrueFi, the Trust token?
End of year predictions?
Yes.
I don't know that we can specifically make end of year predictions, but I can tell you that right now, our largest focus as a company is on expanding the protocol and launching new lending pools, and specifically refactoring the protocol such that at some point, hopefully soon, anyone can come and create a new lending pool. And there's going to be all different kinds of lending pools on there, different assets, different types of borrowers that they're focusing on, very different levels of risk and return. And our goal is that, I wouldn't say by the end of the year, but I'd say over the course of the next year, that we've got dozens and at some point hundreds of other pools launched on our protocol. And at some point, it is as open and as diverse of an ecosystem as something like SushiSwap and Uniswap. That's where we're really looking to go.
All right, nice. Marek, you have something to say?
Well, I couldn't express it better, so just gonna add a signature to what Rafael said.
All right, nice. Okay, so last two questions. First one is, do you guys have plans to expand to the African continent?
Wow, good question. So we're already right now a very global company. The folks that purchase and redeem TrueUSD and our other stable coins come from every different continent, not Antarctica, of course, but all the others. And I do think that a lot of the biggest benefits for decentralized finance can happen in Africa and South America and some parts of Asia, places where the banking infrastructure may not be as strong, and some of the investment opportunities that are available in the United States or in Europe are not available today. But that being said, that kind of global adoption is going to take time, and it also is going to take a large ecosystem of different application developers, building these on-ramps and off-ramps and easy ways that on your phone or just in a web browser, you can access some of these underlying core DeFi protocols, such as TrueFi.
All right, so another question. What are your thoughts on cryptocurrency regulations all around the world, and what do you think the future is going to be like? I mean, we're seeing China reinforcing their ban on cryptocurrencies. Now they've made it totally illegal. So do you guys think that regulators in general are going to be more friendly towards the space, or do you think they're still going to go the route of China, whereby making it very, very difficult for people to get into cryptocurrencies?
Great
Rafael, did you get the
question.
question?
And Ajibola,
Yeah.
I did, yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Ajibola, I wanted to add something on to my previous note about
please go
Africa
ahead.
and
Please go ahead.
other places globally where we can expand, which is if you or anyone in your network knows good borrowers that we can bring onto the TrueFi platform from Africa or from other places that are not yet being served sufficiently by traditional finance or by decentralized finance, please let us know. We would love to talk to them. We would love to bring them into the ecosystem.
Definitely. I'm going to tell a friend to tell a friend. Definitely.
So, Ajibola, to the question about regulation, and I'll let Marek add to this, of course. There is a reason why we have regulations and why we have regulators. They've got a job to do, and it's ultimately to protect consumers. People want protection to know that they're not going to be scammed when they invest in something. And that's what regulators are trying to do. I believe actually presents a massive opportunity for them, because part of their mandate is around helping people get access to quality investment opportunities and have those be transparent, what they're investing in, how it works. And that is exactly what DeFi is able to offer at a level that traditional finance has never been able to offer in terms of transparency and trust, if you can read the actual code of the protocol that you are putting capital with. So I think that in time, as regulators start to really understand DeFi and the opportunity it presents, that they're going to come to truly embrace it. But that could take many years. And just like how the internet is a tremendous opportunity for us as a society, but we're still figuring out as a society how to regulate the internet. What laws should apply to internet platforms like Facebook or Google or Apple. I think similarly, it may be decades for regulators and for us as a society to figure out how do we want to handle decentralized finance and all of the power that it can bring.
All right. Marek, do you have anything to add?
Not much, really. I completely agree. I think at risk of something repetitive, it's gonna take a long time, and like it was within, and it's still with the internet. But I remember, people wouldn't buy things on the internet, and internet would be, pornography, and that's it. And why would you allow your children to go to the internet, right? So that took really 20 years. It was late 90s when it all started. It seems it's all regulated now, but then Rafael just broke my view of the world and say, hey, what about Facebook? What about Google? Right? We're still figuring it out. So I think it's a many decade process that it's going to take. But because blockchain seems to be, we believe it's more efficient, more better financial system, allows to build better financial system. I think eventually regulators will recognize that, and we're gonna, maybe majority of the assets worldwide gonna be on the blockchain, or what blockchain gonna evolve into in a decade or two. So this upcoming years might be a little bit more uncertain, but it's definitely those who will go through that is those who gonna build the next Googles and Facebooks for finance.
All right, thanks for that. Final question for you both. What is TrueFi doing right now? Because you know, when people see this interview and in the future, there's bound to be competition in your space, you know, offering uncollateralized loans. So what are you guys doing to make yourself more competitive? What are you doing to strengthen the platform? What are you doing to get more investors in?
Great question, Ajibola. The number one thing that we are doing right now is opening the platform to be able to launch many more pools, and at some point to be able to have all kinds of individual and businesses launch their own lending pools. You know, we envision TrueFi having pools that are focused on venture debt, focused on corporate debt, focused on lending to SMEs, someday even pools that lend to consumers. There's going to be pools that are focused on lending in all different markets, whether it's North America, South America, Africa, Asia. There's going to be a tremendous diversity of pools, and we need to open up the ecosystem, get the right folks on board to be building out some of those pools, and you know, take a large share of that market before someone else does, as you said, because it definitely is becoming a more and more competitive space. So that is the number one thing that we are focused on. And I'm spending time every single day, every single week, talking to those potential pool creators, writing specifications for how those pools can work and how changes we might need to make to our protocol. And we are looking to ship some very exciting stuff on this front quite soon.
All right. So I guess that's it. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Thank you for taking the time. Sadly, we're not able to see Raf's face, but you know, it was all good. It was really an interesting talk. So Marek, Raf, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and the pleasure is all ours.
Nice. Yeah,
thank you so much. Talk soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Marek and Rafa. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
No problem at all.
Alex, great to connect always.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye, Marek.
Take care.